the first thing I am aware of is the silence. It is a specific kind of Christmas morning silence, thick and heavy with anticipation, the kind that usually lasts only for the few precious seconds before a child's excited whisper breaks it. I keep my eyes closed, savoring it, a smile already touching my lips. I stretch one leg across the bed, expecting to find the familiar, solid warmth of my husband, Marcus. My foot encounters only cool, rumpled linen. My eyes open. The space beside me is empty, not just empty, but hollow. The pillow bears the deep impression of his head, a fossil of a presence that is no longer here. I press my palm flat against his side of the mattress. It is cold, not the coolness of a recently vacated bed, but the deep, settled chill of a space that has been empty for hours. A low thrum of confusion starts in my chest. It is 5:45 on Christmas morning. Marcus is not an early riser, not even for Santa. He is the one who needs to be coaxed from the blankets with the promise of coffee and the sound of wrapping paper being torn. I push myself up, the festive flannel of my pajamas feeling suddenly childish against my skin. That is when I see it, a soft, malevolent glow from his nightstand. His phone. He never leaves without his phone. I reach for it, my fingers clumsy with sleep. The screen is unlocked, a text message thread open. It is to me. The message is timestamped 5:02 a.m. Do not worry, had to run over to Mom's early. Robert's kids are already awake and driving them crazy. Going to help with the presents. Be back before the chaos starts at our place. Love you. I read it once. Then again, the words do not compute. Robert is his brother and they live a good 30 minutes away across town. Why would he go there at 5 in the morning on Christmas? The logic is a thin, frayed thread. I swing my legs out of bed, the hardwood floor icy against my bare feet. The house is utterly, profoundly silent. It is the silence that confirms the lie. I move on instinct, a quiet dread propelling me forward. I crack open the door to the hallway. No sound from the kids' rooms. 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Noah are still deep in their sugar-plum dreams. The house would not be this quiet if they were awake. I pad down the hallway, past the closed doors, and peer through the small window on the front door. There it is. Marcus's dark blue SUV, parked exactly where he left it last night after we got back from the Christmas Eve service. A dusting of fresh snow clings to its roof and hood, undisturbed. He did not drive anywhere. My heart begins a slow, heavy drum against my ribs. I walk back into our bedroom, my eyes scanning, hunting for clues like a detective at a crime scene. And I find them. Small, insignificant things that scream in the quiet room. His favorite watch, the silver fossil I gave him for our 5th anniversary, is on his dresser, next to his keys. He would never leave that behind. His worn leather dop kit is still on the bathroom counter. His razor, his cologne, the spicy one he wears every day, all in their places. It is as if he has simply evaporated, leaving only the ghost of his routine behind. This is not a simple misunderstanding. This is something else. The cheerful Christmas lights I strung along the mantelpiece yesterday now seem garish, their blinking patterns suddenly mocking. The stockings hanging expectantly by the fireplace feel like a staged prop in a play that has been abruptly canceled. The holiday cheer I went to bed with has curdled, replaced by a cold, creeping fear that slithers down my spine. The doorbell chimes, a shrill, unexpected sound that makes me jump. I glance at the clock. It is not even 7. Who would be here now? A new, irrational hope flares. Maybe it is him, maybe he lost his keys, maybe there is a perfectly reasonable explanation. I hurry to the front door and pull it open. It is my mother, Eleanor, standing on the porch, her arms laden with brightly wrapped gifts, a dusting of snow glittering on the shoulders of her wool coat. Her face, usually composed and sharp, is lit with a rare, festive energy. "Merry Christmas, darling. I could not sleep, so I thought I would get a head start on the spoiling," she says, her voice cheerful. But the smile on her face falters and then vanishes completely as she takes me in. "Maya, what is wrong?" I realize I am still standing there in my pajamas, my hair a mess, my face undoubtedly pale and stricken. I have not said a word. I step back to let her in, the cold air from outside rushing into the foyer. "Nothing, it is nothing. Marcus is just not here." She brushes past me, setting the gifts down carefully under the tree, her movements efficient. She turns to face me, peeling off her leather gloves. Her eyes, the same shade of hazel as my own, are scanning me, missing nothing. Not here. Where is he? It is Christmas morning. He left a text, I say, my voice sounding thin and far away. I hand her the phone. He said he went to his brother S to help with the kids. Elena reads the message, her lips pressed into a firm line. She does not dismiss it. She does not say, "Oh, that makes sense." She hands the phone back to me, her gaze sweeping the room, taking in the same unsettling normalcy I had seen. Her eyes land on the car keys and watch on the dresser, visible from the living room archway. She looks back at me, and in that moment, I see the years fall away from her. I see the young woman she was 30 years ago, the one who came home to a half-empty closet and a note on the kitchen table. "His car is in the driveway," I whisper, the words feeling like a confession of something terrible. "I saw," she says quietly. Her voice has lost all its holiday lightness. It is now the voice she uses for serious things, the voice that carried us through my father's departure. She places a hand on my arm, her grip firm. "Maya, look at me. What else is missing? Think." I shake my head, a numbness spreading through me. Nothing. His wallet is on the dresser. His coat is in the closet. It is like he just walked out. The final 3 words hang in the air between us, sucking all the oxygen from the room. Eleanor's face hardens. The hypervigilance born from her own past betrayal is fully engaged now. She is not just a grandmother bearing gifts. She is a soldier who recognizes the signs of an ambush. Men do not just walk out on Christmas morning, Maya. Not unless something is very wrong, or unless they have been planning to leave for a very long time. The idea is so monstrous, so alien to the man I thought I knew, that I feel my knees go weak. Marcus? Planning to leave? The man who cried when Lily was born, who builds elaborate Lego sets with Noah for hours, who kissed me just last night under the mistletoe and whispered that he was the luckiest man alive. "No," I say, the word a desperate plea. "You do not understand. It is Marcus. There has to be an explanation." "There is an explanation," Eleanor says, her voice low and urgent. She gestures to the quiet, perfect house, the sleeping children, the abandoned watch. "It is right here. You just do not want to see it." A sound from down the hallway saves me, a small, sleepy cough from Noah's room. The spell is broken, for now. The mom automaton takes over. "The children are waking up," I say, turning away from her piercing gaze. "I have to get the cinnamon rolls in the oven." I walk toward the kitchen, my back to my mother, to the evidence, to the terrifying truth she is voicing. I focus on the mundane task, the need to create a normal Christmas morning for my kids. But as I preheat the oven, my hands trembling, I know something with a chilling certainty that settles deep in my bones. The man who left that text message at 5 o'clock this morning is not the man I married. And the life I woke up to today is already gone. The silence that had settled over our house was not a peaceful one. It was a thick, heavy thing, broken only by the frantic tapping of my fingers on my phone screen and the low, worried murmur of Liam's voice as he paced the living room rug. Eleanor had made tea, a gesture of such profound normalcy that it made me want to scream. The steam curled from the mugs, untouched, a pathetic offering to the gods of panic who had taken up residence in our home. "I have tried his number 17 times, I said, my voice flat and strange to my own ears. "It goes straight to voicemail, every time." "We know, Maya," Liam said, stopping his pacing to place a hand on my shoulder. His touch was warm, solid, the big brother anchor I had relied on my whole life. But today, it felt like I was drifting away from the mooring. "We are calling everyone. We will find him." Eleanor, ever the organizer, had a notepad open on the coffee table. Her neat, precise handwriting listed names, numbers, times called. Uncle Robert has not seen him. His golf partner, David, has not heard from him since their game on Saturday. I am trying his old college friend, Michael, in Chicago now. Each name she read was a tiny pinprick of hope, instantly deflated. No, Marcus had not been there. No, they had not spoken to him. No, they had no idea where he could be. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, a skeleton draped in unlit lights, a mocking symbol of the joy we were supposed to be feeling. Every dead end was another twist of the cold, hard knot in my stomach. This was not a simple miscommunication. This was a void. "What about work?" Liam asked, his brow furrowed. "Have you called his office?" I called his direct line. I called the main line. I spoke to his assistant, Sarah. The memory of that conversation sent a fresh wave of ice through me. She said Marcus had cleared his schedule for the week. He told her he had a family emergency. She assumed it was something with me or the kids. The words hung in the air. A family emergency. He had planned this. He had told his workplace a story, and that story had woven me, unknowingly, into his deception. The man I had shared a bed with for 20 years had looked me in the eye, kissed me goodbye, and walked out the door with a secret plan. "I do not understand," I whispered, my hands trembling as I set my phone down. "I do not understand any of this." The helplessness was a physical ache. I could not just sit there, waiting for the phone to ring. I had to move, to do something, anything. My eyes fell on the boxes of Christmas decorations stacked by the fireplace. We had been so happy just yesterday, dragging them down from the attic, the kids laughing about the ugly ceramic angel we insisted on putting up every year. It felt like a lifetime ago. "I am going to finish bringing down the rest of the decorations," I announced, standing up abruptly. "Maya, you do not have to do that," Elinor said softly. "I need to do something," I said, and the desperation in my voice silenced any further objection. The attic was a tomb of memories, dust motes dancing in the slants of light from the bare bulb. The air smelled of old wood and nostalgia. I ignored the labeled boxes and went for an old, hard-shelled suitcase tucked behind them. It was where we kept the more delicate, vintage ornaments passed down from my grandmother. I unclasped the rusty latches and lifted the lid. The familiar scent of cedar and aged paper wafted out. I moved aside tissue-wrapped glass baubles, my hands moving on autopilot. Beneath a stack of my grandmother's embroidered linens, my fingers brushed against something that was not fabric. It was a crisp, rectangular shape. I pushed the linens aside. And my heart stopped. It was a plain white envelope, and on its face, in the familiar, steady handwriting I had seen on grocery lists and love notes, was a single word: Maya. The world narrowed to that envelope. The sounds from downstairs faded away. I picked it up. It was not heavy. It had not been mailed. It was just placed here, for me to find. I stumbled down the attic stairs, the letter clutched in my hand like a shard of glass. Liam and Elinor looked up as I entered the living room, and the expression on my face must have said everything. "What is it?" Liam asked, rising to his feet. I could not speak. I just held out the envelope. My name, written in Marcus's hand, stared back at us. With trembling fingers, I tore it open. A single sheet of paper was inside, filled with his writing. I sank onto the sofa, the paper shaking in my hands, and began to read aloud, my voice a thin, reedy thing. "My dearest Maya, if you are reading this, then I have gone, and I am so desperately sorry. I have failed you. I have failed our children. I have tried to shield you from the truth, but the wall I built is crumbling, and I cannot let it fall on you." I swallowed hard, tears already blurring the words. Liam sat beside me, his arm around me, while Elinor leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. "The investment I told you about, the one I said was a sure thing to secure the kids' college funds, it was a lie. It was a catastrophic failure. I trusted the wrong person, my partner, Julian. I signed things I did not fully understand, and now we are not just at a loss, Maya. We are ruined. The house, our savings, it is all gone. I could not bear to see the light in your eyes dim when you realized everything we had built was vanishing." A sob escaped my lips. Ruined? How could we be ruined? Marcus was so careful, so responsible. This was not possible. "I have to make this right. I have left to confront Julian. I believe he knew the risks and hid them from me. I fear what I might have brought upon our family. Please, do not try to find me. I need to face this alone. It is my burden to carry. I love you more than life. Forgive me, Marcus." The letter fluttered from my fingers onto the coffee table. The silence in the room was absolute. The truth was not a relief. It was a deeper, more profound devastation. He had not left us for another woman. He had left us because of shame, because he thought he had to face this alone. "Oh, Marcus," I whispered, "you foolish, proud man." Before anyone could speak, the doorbell rang, a sharp, intrusive sound that made us all jump. Elinor went to answer it, and a moment later, Aunt Carol swept into the room. She was my mother's sister, a woman who carried family history in the lines of her face. She took one look at us, at the tear-streaked misery on my face, and her own expression tightened with immediate understanding. "What has happened?" she asked, her voice low and urgent. "It is Marcus, is it not?" Liam gestured to the letter on the table. Carol picked it up, her hands trembling slightly as she read. She finished, and a profound sadness settled over her features, a look of resigned grief, as if she had been expecting this news for decades. "He did not tell you about the money," she said, not a question but a statement. "We had no idea," I said. "None. Why would he keep this from me?" Carol sank into an armchair, her eyes distant, looking at a memory we could not see. "Because he is his father's son," she said, her voice thick with an old pain. "And the men in this family, they have a sickness of pride." Liam and I exchanged a confused glance. "What are you talking about, Aunt Carol?" Liam asked. She took a deep, shaky breath. "Your father, Maya, my brother-in-law, he did not die of a sudden heart attack when you were 6 years old." The floor seemed to drop away beneath me. "What?" "That was the story we told you children. It was easier." Carol's eyes met mine, filled with a terrible compassion. "The truth is, one day he just left. He had gotten involved in a bad business deal, lost everything. He was too ashamed, too proud to let your mother see him fail. He believed his struggle was his alone to bear. He left a note, much like this one, and walked out the door. We never saw him again." The revelation struck me with the force of a physical blow. My father had not died. He had abandoned us. The foundation of my entire life, the story I had accepted for over 30 years, was a lie. And Marcus, who had known this truth, had chosen the same path. Marcus knew, I breathed, the pieces crashing together. He knew about his father. "He found out when he was a teenager," Carol confirmed softly. "He made me promise never to tell you. He said he did not want it to tarnish your memory of your dad. He was so afraid of becoming him. And now, history has repeated itself. The same fear, the same misguided nobility." I looked from the letter on the table to the haunted face of my aunt, and the true, devastating scope of the tragedy revealed itself. This was not just about money. It was about a ghost that had been living in my house, in my husband's heart, all along. Marcus was not just missing. He was chasing a phantom, trying to outrun a legacy he was now fulfilling. And the terrible, chilling question that filled the room, that stopped my breath in my chest, was a simple one. If history was repeating itself so exactly, did that mean Marcus, like his father, was never coming back? The silence in the house was a physical presence, thick and heavy like a winter fog. It was broken only by the occasional crackle from the dying embers in the fireplace and the sound of my own heartbeat, a frantic drum against my ribs. The Christmas tree in the corner, once a beacon of joyful light, now seemed to mock us with its relentless cheer. Its twinkling lights reflected in the untouched surface of the dining table, where the feast we had prepared with so much hope sat congealing. The turkey was a cold, bronze monument to a celebration that would not happen. The gravy had solidified into a dark, oily skin. It was a still life of our shattered family. Hours had bled away since my father had walked out that door. The initial shock had given way to a storm of emotions that cycled through me with violent force. Anger was the first wave, a hot, sharp tide that made me want to scream, to break something, to tear the carefully constructed facade of our lives right down to its rotten studs. How could he lie to us, to me, for my entire life? Every memory I had of him was now tainted, every fatherly gesture questioned. Was that trip to the zoo paid for, with money that was not his to give? Was the roof over our heads secured by a foundation of deceit? Then the anger would recede, leaving behind a vast, hollow ache of grief. I was mourning the father I thought I had. The infallible, hardworking man was a phantom. In his place was a flawed, desperate stranger who had committed a terrible, stupid crime. And with that grief came a fear so cold and sharp it stole the air from my lungs. Where was he now? Was he in a police car? Was he hurt? The image of him being handcuffed, shoved into the back of a cruiser, played behind my eyes on a torturous loop. I jumped at every sound from the street, my body tensing, waiting for the dreaded knock on the door, for a pair of stern-faced officers to deliver the news that would destroy us completely. My mother had not moved from the sofa for a long time. She was a statue of sorrow, her face pale and streaked with dried tears. She stared at the wall, seeing nothing, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. I knew she was trapped in her own private hell, grappling with the knowledge that the man she loved had borne this terrible secret alone for a year. I wanted to go to her, to offer some comfort, but I was trapped, too, trapped inside the fortress of my own hurt. The generational silence my grandmother had spoken of, the unspoken rule that difficult things were not to be discussed, was a wall between us now, higher and more formidable than ever. The night stretched on, an endless, dark corridor. I must have dozed off, because the sound of the key in the front door lock jolted me awake. My heart leaped into my throat. I looked at the clock on the mantelpiece. It was 4:15 in the morning. The darkness outside was beginning to soften at the edges, a deep, bruised purple heralding the dawn. He stood in the doorway, and he looked like a man who had been to war and lost. His shoulders were slumped, his expensive suit was wrinkled and stained, and his face was a mask of utter exhaustion. There was no triumph in his eyes, only a deep, bottomless defeat. He was safe. He was not in handcuffs. That was the first, overwhelming flood of relief, but it was immediately followed by a fresh surge of that hot, righteous anger. He did not look at us as he shuffled inside, dropping his keys on the small table by the door with a dull clatter. The sound was abnormally loud in the silent house. "Marcus," my mother whispered, her voice ragged. She stood up, a tremor running through her. He finally lifted his head, and his gaze met mine. I saw a flicker of shame, of fear, but mostly I saw a profound weariness. He walked past the living room, toward the kitchen, and I found my feet moving, following him. This could not wait. This silence would not claim another moment of our lives. The kitchen was lit by the single bulb over the sink, casting long, dramatic shadows. The remnants of our dinner preparations were still there, a cruel reminder of the day that had been. He went to the sink and poured a glass of water, his hands shaking so badly that water sloshed over the rim. I stood by the island, my arms crossed tightly over my chest, a barrier against the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. "Well," I said, and my voice was colder than I intended. He drank the water in one long gulp and then leaned heavily on the counter, his back to me. "It is done," he said, his voice hollow. "The money is returned. There will be no charges. I no longer have a job." The finality of those words hung in the air. It was over. The immediate danger had passed, but the wreckage remained. "Why?" the word burst out of me, sharp and broken. "Why would you do that? How could you lie to me, for a whole year?" He turned around slowly, and the raw pain in his eyes was almost too much to bear. "Why?" he repeated, and a bitter, broken laugh escaped him. "For this, Maya, for all of this." He gestured vaguely around the kitchen at the house. The business was failing. For months it was failing. I was going to lose everything. Your college fund, this house, everything your mother and I had built. I thought it was temporary, a bridge loan. I thought I could fix it, replace the money before anyone noticed. I was a fool. The hole just got deeper and deeper. "But you could have told us," I cried, my composure cracking. "We are a family. We could have helped you. We could have sold the house. I could have deferred school. Anything would have been better than this lie." "And say what?" he shot back, his own anger surfacing, fueled by shame. "That I was a failure, that I could not provide for my family. My father lost his farm when I was a boy, Maya. I watched everything he had worked for disappear. I swore I would never let that happen to my family. I would rather have gone to jail than see you and your mother want for anything. It was my responsibility, my burden to carry." "Your burden?" I felt hot tears spill down my cheeks. "You do not get to decide that. Do you have any idea what tonight was like for us? Waiting, not knowing if you were ever coming back. That was your burden to carry, too, but you made us carry it with you. You just did not tell us." The truth of my words seemed to deflate him. The anger drained away, leaving only the naked man beneath. His shoulders sagged, and he looked old, older than I had ever seen him. "I know," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I know that now. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my own pride. I am sorry, Maya. I am so sorry." He began to cry then, quiet, helpless sobs that shook his entire frame. It was a sound I had never heard from him, and it shattered the last of my anger. He was not the infallible giant of my childhood. He was a man, a flawed and frightened man who had made a catastrophic mistake out of a twisted sense of love and duty. I stood there watching my father weep, and I felt the generational curse of silence break inside me. It did not shatter with a bang, but with a quiet, painful snap. The wall came down. I uncrossed my arms and walked over to him. I did not hug him, not yet. The hurt was still too fresh, too deep, but I stood beside him. I placed my hand on his trembling arm. "No more secrets," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "No more lies. That is the only way we get through this." He looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed and full of a desperate hope. He nodded, unable to speak. My mother was standing in the kitchen doorway, her hand pressed to her mouth, fresh tears streaming down her face. She came forward then, and she wrapped her arms around both of us. We stood there, the three of us, huddled together in the dim light of the kitchen, a broken family, but a family nonetheless. The Christmas lie lay in rubble around our feet. As we pulled apart, the first true rays of the rising sun pierced the window, casting a weak, golden light across the floor. It was Christmas morning, but the day had passed. It was the 26th of December. My father wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He looked at the living room, at the presents still piled under the tree, untouched. "We should open those," he said, his voice hoarse. "It is still Christmas in a way." We moved into the living room, the pale dawn light filtering through the windows, making the tree lights seem faint and ghostly. We did not speak much. The joy of the occasion was gone, replaced by a somber, weary acknowledgement. But we were together. We were honest. I picked up a small, flat box with my name on it. The paper was torn, the celebration was ruined, but as I held that unopened gift in my hands, I felt something unfamiliar stir beneath the exhaustion and the pain. It was not happiness, not yet. It was the fragile, tentative feeling of a new beginning. But as my fingers traced the edge of the wrapping paper, a cold, practical thought wormed its way into my mind. The money was gone, his job was gone. The life we knew was over. The real work of rebuilding was only just beginning, and I had no idea how we were possibly going to face what came next.